Hello everybody, we're back, reunited, the classic Radiator Arms trio, as seen in Cosmopolitan, of my good self, James, aka JayEmm on Cars, Will the Plank.
Hello.
And Ant, formerly Tony 210s.
Hello, that's me.
And today on the Radiator Arms, it's...
Well, today we're answering the question of, I can't remember, sorry, what was it again?
We're talking about how it is that my favourite car show, which this year you both joined me for the first time, tells us something really quite important and potentially worrying about the future of the cars that we love so very much. Enjoy. Gentlemen, it feels like an age since I've been here, and my mother has been very, very upset because I've been away, and there were a few episodes we recorded in advance to cover my absence, but then, well, I left and we had Ben fill in and do, I've got to say, an excellent job. I was very, very happy to listen to the episodes and really enjoyed them. It was nice to get to experience it from the other side of the screen. But yeah, no, Mum's been upset that I've not been here. So hi, Mum.
Hi, Mum.
I'm back, and yeah, glad to be here. But in my absence, what have you guys been up to?
Oh, well, I've got some exciting news.
Oh, do tell.
The Golf is up for sale.
Yes. Now, sort of standard-ish, isn't it?
It is pretty standard. It's on standard suspension and wheels with good tyres. Actually, it's quite funny. It's only up for sale because I'm purchasing a new car, and I mean a brand new car, which we're not going to go into detail about just yet, but there's some people I met at Helmingham who know. There's some people who, from things I've spoken about previously on the podcast, might be able to piece things together about what I might be getting. But yeah, the Golf is up for sale, and I only a month ago spent nearly $1,000 on it again, putting really good quality Sachs shocks on, really good quality springs, and new tyres on it of a decent quality, because I don't like putting cheap tyres on my car. And here we are, and it's up for sale for literally around $2,000.
Well, you know, such is life. I think we've all been there at some point, poured in an amount of money into a car that you eventually come to realise was probably as much as it was worth.
I worked it out the other day. From the amount I've spent on it, is equivalent to me, in the time I've had it, spending about £180 a month on a PCP agreement.
And this is probably going to be of key importance in a future episode, isn't it?
Yes, as to one of the reasons why I'm looking at a PCP agreement on a brand new car.
If it makes you feel any better, a couple of days ago, I drove a base 987 Cayman, so similar to the one that I'm building, but the bottom model with the 2.7 litre engine. And the previous owner bought that quite some years before for £30,000, then spent £57,000 on maintenance and sold it for £7,000.
Wow. Okay, I don't feel so bad. But before we move on, without you guys revealing what it is, what are your thoughts on the car I'm buying? Like something vague, but what are your thoughts?
Genuinely quite excited, particularly because if it is what you keep saying it is, and it does what it says it does, I think it could be an interesting solution to the problem we're going to be talking about today.
I don't know.
Sage words of wisdom as ever.
I think it is, without giving anything away, I think it is a very wise choice because it does exactly what you need it to do. And it is inexpensive. It's making cars accessible again in terms of its price point, because that's been a big problem for a little while.
Yeah, I think either in about 18 to 24 months' time, either you're going to be utterly and totally smitten to the point that you'll have already committed to keeping it and probably ruining it forever, or you will be Googling insurance fraud. Is it really that bad?
Let's just say that I have already looked at some mild modifications for it.
For a second, I thought you meant, I've been Googling sabotage that's difficult to detect.
I don't think I'm going to hate it. I've test driven them a couple of times now, and I think I'm going to enjoy it.
No,
it's very me.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too, because I just want to see what all the fuss is about.
And I can't wait for you both to drive it as well. That's got to be either a main channel video or like something.
Highlight of my year, mate.
Ant, what's been going on in your life?
Wow, I don't know. Did I have I mentioned on the podcast that the Audi R8 GT Spider, one of 33 in the UK, one of only 333 in the world, has now been sold?
You have, and how now it is gone. How are you feeling when you look out the window every day?
Well, I was always in storage, so it doesn't really make a difference. I take it out and for a day or two, and then put it back in. Tuck it away in storage.
Okay, so but how are you metaphorically feeling?
Well, with the recent heat, I was really missing it because I was like, I only could just get in the GT right now, put the roof down and go for a drive. But I've also been enjoying the Gallardo a lot, especially yesterday on James's absolutely fantastic best in the world track day ever.
Yep. TM.
That track day is for your upcoming birthday, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I've now decided that the best way to enjoy track days is to just hire a track, get some friends together, we split the cost of it, and it's just superb. Did it last year, did it this year, and I think I'm just going to keep doing it because, a great variety of people, everyone's friendly, and it's as much social event as it is track day, and I'm looking at ways of trying to take what we do and open it up to the public. I've got a few ideas for how to do that. We'll talk about in future, but it's just wonderful. Yeah, I went out with Ant in the Gardo, and he's enjoying that car.
Well, speaking of your birthday, we've got a mild confession to make. So me and Ant have been planning a little gift for you. Because it is coming up. How long have we been doing this podcast for now, would you say?
Well, I know because it's episode numbers.
Okay.
So I think this is episode number, what would it be, 31?
Something like that. It's in the
like
30s.
That.
So
I know we do them in batches or so. So I mean, it's basically half a year, isn't it? It's basically 6 months.
Well over half a year.
Yeah.
And if you remember on the first episode, there was something that you came up here and you saw and you're like, wow, I really like that. I think that looks really cool. And then we talked about trying to find you one at some point. And then we looked at importing them from Japan, where they came from, and realised there's not many of them around. And it was going to be a bit hard to find. So we got something. I bought it. We bought something off my dad because it was his. And
Oh, you sweetheart. Right, okay.
This is yours.
Yeah, I am not going to insult anybody by playing this because what I will do is make an absolute sow's ear of Smoke on the Water.
We have a solution to that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there is a solution. My father...
There is an obvious solution, but one I'm incapable of implementing.
See, it's got your name on there and everything.
You sweet... Right, okay.
It tags.
Not everybody's watching this, so those that are... Look at this! Oh, guys, you're going to make me cry. But as I'm a man, I am actually physically and genetically incapable. This is a gorgeous guitar that reminds me an awful lot of when I was a kid, Ibanez guitars were always like cool as heck. What is the brand of this?
So this is a Fernandez guitar. This is a really rare one as well because it's a Japanese one. It's late 80s, early 90s. We're not entirely sure of the age. We've had it for at least the entire time we've been here. That guitar, I have personally over the years gigged using loads of recordings. My dad has done as well. I learned to play a lot of guitar on that as well. So it is a special one, but we have so many here. And to be honest with you, we don't really play it. Plus, it's got something really cool. It's got like an electric sustainer, so it'll help you do really long sweeping notes and stuff with it like that, which we'll have to show you how to use. But to show you how to use it, my father, because he is a luthier and a musical instrument repairer and guitar teacher, is throwing in a free guitar lesson for you.
Oh, that's
as well.
absolutely amazing.
And
thank you so much.
So you've got the option as well of you can either have a free guitar stand or a wall mount. So you choose which one you want, and we'll sort you out with that later.
Thank you.
And,
probably a wall mount, because I've got, as you well know, I'm building a little sort of like 90s
exactly.
noughties
I thought
man cave, and that will go just perfectly. I love and because it's Sonic the Hedgehog themed as well. So
yes.
So it's basically, for those that are listening, it's what do you call this? It's a double cutout.
Double cutaway with a kind of a flame, a greeny blue kind of
looks
flame.
A little. If you want to imagine, like, I guess, kind of Stratocaster, sort of, but not really. A bit edgier, with gold dials on it. Obviously, your standard fretboard one. Gold detailing on the top. Nice angular kind of looking thing. And the paint job on it is a sort of aqua blue in the middle with real nice sort of wood patterning coming through, with a much darker blue to the edge. And given that, Sonic the Hedgehog is kind of inspiration, like, I owe you one dirty great big hug as soon as we're finished recording.
You can have that. I mean,
I couldn't.
I couldn't quite top a Mercedes.
Guys, I didn't expect nothing. So
I know,
thank you so much. Oh, do you want to put that back? Otherwise, I can and will break it.
Yeah.
Well, it's yours now. You can do what you want with it.
Well, yeah. I'm not that rock and roll. Right? Thanks for this guitar, Will. Smash, smash, smash. Like,
it's also one of the reasons I've kept it up on the stand for so long as well. So people, if they go back at previous episodes, will see it's there. So we'll have to find something else to put up there later, because that's going to be in your house now. So that's the thing. You're hard to buy for, and didn't know what to get.
That is true. Yeah.
And I said, I know, we can go halves on this, and sorted.
Oh, and he was giving me the whole like, I ain't got you nothing.
See, the Halo cookbook that I got you was also a bit to throw you off as well.
Yeah,
I got that before I decided this, but that was also a good throwaway.
I like the Halo cookbook. The Halo cookbook is cracking. Yeah. No. And please thank Will Senior, as it were.
Yes. You'll get a chance to see him later.
Oh, good. I'll thank him, the sneaky bastard. Thank you, gents. You've thrown me right off now.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So
let's talk about
cars.
Your favourite car event.
Yeah.
Helmingham Hall. He's been trying to get me to go to this for a couple of years now. And every time I kind of looked at it, I was thinking, is that really for me? And I was like speaking to Damani. I was like, let's have a look at it. I don't know. Is it our kind of scene? I was like, do you know what? This year, I'm just going to go, because at the end of the day, we want to encourage people to watch and listen to the podcast. And it's great to get out there and actually meet some of the people who are actually listening to the podcast and watching the channels, which we did. And it was great. I mean, some of the feedback we got was absolutely amazing from the people that we met. And if you're listening or watching, thank you so much.
Yeah, we met some really nice people there. Some cool people. There's got cool people on the stand, and people obviously recognised us and come up. I had people asking to take selfies with me as well, which is quite good.
Is that new for you?
You're a rock star. I thought this was standard.
Actually, I ever had a mild bit of YouTube fame in the streets was about 10 years ago. This is when I was making my tech videos more regularly, and I was walking down the street in my local town, and some man shouted out the side of the van window on a passenger side, said, "That's Will the Plank. I love your videos." And I went, "What?" And that happened. It's the only time it ever happened, and I was very miffed about that, because at that point in my life, I only had like a couple thousand subscribers, hadn't really had much public reach. So I was like, this is very bizarre. So yes, it was a bit weird having people coming up and wanting selfies and stuff, but it's nice, it's good to interact with people. And it also shows that what we're doing here, brings the numbers into real life as well. You see the numbers, 2,500, 3,000 views, listens on YouTube, which we love. We were starting this expecting to get nothing basically. And maybe I remember we said on the first episode after we finished recording it, if we can get 100 views per episode, we're doing good. And those numbers have been well outstretched. So we just want to thank everybody who has been.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, like to fit 2,000 or 3,000 people in here would be a struggle.
Yeah, I fit 20 in here before, and it was claustrophobic.
Yeah, I bet.
So I was thinking, let's go to this show, and I was thoroughly impressed. I mean, the scale of it is a lot larger than their publicity would have you believe. And from some of the social media, it was massive. And the variety of cars that were there, and some of them, the rarity and the uniqueness, because some of them were just like custom builds and things like that. it was a very, very surprisingly positive experience for me. Not the usual show that I would go to, and it makes me want to go back the following year. But the thing is, a lot of the cars there seem to be cars that each of us, I'm a bit older than the other two, each of us kind of would find our own hero cars there. Mm-hmm. And I saw a range of ages from very young people to much older people. And you could see there wasn't really much difference in the age between the people looking and admiring certain cars of previous generations. And I thought, there aren't very many modern cars here. I mean, there's one or two, there's a few modern cars, like current cars, recent cars. And I just thought, wow, is there anything left really for people to fall in love with today as they did back in the day, apart from the very expensive supercars?
Yeah. I mean, you mean there's a great variety in the age of the people there.
Yep.
But the cars, well, there was a variety of age of car, but it also hit a bit of a barrier. Now, admittedly, technically speaking, the show is for cars that are, I think, at least 20 years old or older. However, for the club stand, that rule doesn't apply at all. So to give people some idea, and for those watching, we will overlay quite a few snaps and things through the video. You've got a nice big country house, moat around it, and a driveway leading right up to it. And the driveway kind of cuts the show in half. So if you're looking at the house, over to your right, you've got kind of individual parking. So where they tried to group cars by era and it didn't work very well at all. And then over to the left, you've got various different clubs. And that's where we were parked up on what used to be the old Piston Heads East Anglia stand, which makes me really happy that we've got the stand that I used to sort of be on 10 years ago. And then there's various different Ford clubs. There's, I don't think they were there this year, but there was an S2000 club typically is there. There was Triumph Stags, I think. You have stuff like the North Essex Ragtops, which is a convertible club. Then you have stuff like Club Lotus. There's a load of Jaguar Club. There's an Aston Martin. There's Porsche. There's a really great variety of clubs there. Then above that, you got food and things everywhere. And as I mentioned before, the food at the show is one of the things I really love. We'll get onto it. And then just in front of the house, you have an area they call the Tollmarsh T110, where they have 110 vehicles of, I think they consider it like, exceptional type. But it's a bit of a mixed bag, but just really cool, interesting stuff. And there's always some stuff that I recognize from years past, but there always tends to be some new and interesting stuff as well. But yeah, your most modern thing you're going to really get there is 2010, give or take.
Apart from, I think there was like Lotus Emira.
Yeah.
There was a few of those there, but they were sort of sitting alongside older
and
Lotus.
Before we do start whinging, because it's very easy to do this, before we start whinging about new cars too much, one of my favourite things that I saw there was, in fact, an brand new car, which I know you'd love, the Microlino.
Yeah, I saw that. We looked up that and we were like, what is
Did you
that?
not see the Microlino, the little bubble car? Did you miss the Microlino?
Clearly.
Like, you have to look this up now. Microlino. It is a modern-day evocation, I guess you would call it, of the old Isetta bubble car.
Yes.
So, strict two-seater, now, of course, an EV. And they're all left-hand drive, but I think the nearest dealer is probably Crazy Horse over in Bury St Edmunds, because they sell everything. I don't know of any other dealers of them, but they were the guys who were at the show. And it's just a really funky, interesting-looking thing that, that's the chappy, that I would have one of those. However, I did twig there is no aircon.
Oh.
Yeah, and given the fact it was, 30 degrees or something on the day, I suddenly thought, would I really want to drive a goldfish bowl to the shops in 30-degree heat? Because all your Freddo bars will have melted before you've got them home. That's sort of that took the shine off it a little bit. Still cool as hell.
Well, it was quite expensive as well, wasn't it, I think? Because I assume it's more like a fashion statement car as well.
Fully optioned up with the big battery and everything, about 23 grand.
Yeah, that's what I saw. And
How much?
Yeah, exactly.
But do you know what? I have a half a suspicion that that's going to be one of those cars where you're like, yeah, buy it now, you're going to lose a packet, but keep it for 10, 15, 20 years, and it'll be one of those things where people be like, oh, we should have bought more of those, because it was genuinely different, interesting, and I know I've ranted about this before, I think we are not focusing enough on the size of vehicles. Right? Like, you know, so many people should be buying that as opposed to the latest Range Rover. You know, and you say it's expensive, but most modern cars now, like I wager you go and buy like your average ordinary like Tesla Model 3 or whatever, like you're going to lose that money.
To be fair, my wife's Renault Clio was 25 grand for the top spec out the door. So as long as the car is like usable and actually something you can drive, it's probably fine, because it's a fashion statement as well. I can imagine that in London being like perfect. Like loads of people will be driving that around.
Let's face it, as a car person, if you went anywhere that's just, you know, wall to wall Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches, McLarens, and that rocked up, you would just go straight to that, wouldn't you? You
100%.
I kind of want one. Although I need to see if I can maybe get one for loan. I don't even know if they have like a press office here or not. So I might have to hound some dealers or whatnot. Because it does look fun.
I definitely need to go in that.
Now, when James says they're only left-hand drive, I mean, it's barely to the left, isn't it?
Yeah. It's honestly, it wouldn't even bother me. Like, it's so tiny. And I think the problem is it's not just changing the steering column. They have to hinge the door differently. That's the issue. That's what it is. It's like you need a right-hand door.
The only thing that would worry me with that is like how many Range Rovers would literally just splat them. Because they didn't see it.
But it's still quick enough. Also, fast forwarding a little bit, in a similar vein, I spoke to a company at the Pistonheads annual service, which actually is another show that I greatly enjoyed, although did have a bit of an issue myself, but might have to be one that goes on my calendar of shows I am absolutely going to every year. And a company came up to me and said, hey, do you want to come over and drive this? Now, I got to basically go to Wales to do it, but I think I might have to do it because what they have is a wide-bodied Honda E.
Oh, mate, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'll come with you.
Right, yeah. You up for that?
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool. I just, even when he said it, I'm like, yeah, damn it, I got to do that.
I love the Honda E anyway. I think it is one of those cars that is just such a timeless design. It was probably one of the first kind of electric throwback cars, really, if you think about it. Because, you know, now you've got the Renault 5, the Renault 4, potentially the Renault Twingo, things like that. And what are the other ones? Obviously, they've got the Mini Electric now. I'm sure there's some other brands that are doing it.
Yeah, Mini doesn't count. The Mini is just a continuation. It'd be like if VW did like an electric Beetle. You're like, it's just, I don't know. But I actually am quite enjoying seeing this kind of new revolution coming along of cars that are really, really cool and affordable, because we need more of those. Like they are, let's face it, like your Renault 5 is your gateway drug to a Rimac Nevera. Right, that's it. Because one of the big problems that we have, and this is very relevant for today's episode, is a lot of young people are just not getting into the world of cars, and it's either because it's just unaffordable, right? It's just expensive, and not just the cars themselves. The test, the licensing, everything is expensive. Insurance is crippling, and it comes with a lot more restrictions than it did when any of us got our license. I mean, it's kind of worrying to think about. I got my license 18 years ago now, 19 years ago, December 2006, and black box insurance didn't exist then.
No,
it wasn't even an option. I think you got your license a few years after me.
I got my license actually in 2013, June 2013.
Yeah,
so it's been just over 12 years now. So Yeah, even then, black boxes were starting to come in, but
Yeah.
like it wasn't as massively common a
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, very different. I look at the test now, even from just over 10 years ago,
Yeah.
basically, to how it is now. Completely different. You're following sat navs and stuff now, apparently, and things like that. Because my sister-in-law and my like blood sister are actually both learning to drive at the moment. So
Yeah.
their driving lessons are like £80.
Yeah,
now.
and when Ant did it, the section where you talk the examiner through your car included showing where the coal goes.
Now this is where you put the lead substitute in there.
Yeah, here you go. Now the handle in the front, make sure to crank with some vigour.
Exactly. Now, do you know how to check the level on your carburetor?
Yeah, actually, I tell you what, that's right. So I do vintage car stuff every now and again. Okay,
Can we just not go from talking about me and then starting to talk about vintage cars?
and the views always die a death, right? Nobody really watches or cares, but I will still do it because I absolutely love it and I find it fascinating. And I think one of the really important things in any field, be it motoring, be it music, be it programming, I'm sure you'll all agree, gentlemen, is that if you don't understand the history of your field, it can often make certain things that exist now, quite confusing. And it also will make you a little bit less able to help shape the future. You have to realize that we all are part of a journey that started before we were around and will carry on after we're gone. And understanding how you got to where you are, I think it's also enjoyable. It's also just good fun to sort of, start to think like I drove the Cadillac recently, a 1916 Cadillac, and that was the first car that had controls where you would now expect them to be, and of course everybody growing up for the last 100 years or whatever has basically just gotten in a car and gone, right, gear levers over here, your pedals are down here, and here's the order they're in, and this is the handbrake, and, with some variation aside, it all works the same. Your steering wheel is here, this is what it does, Even nowadays, things like, indicator stalk switches, stuff like that, they're all relatively homogenized with, okay, there's some variation now, but by and large, it's all the same, but that wasn't always the case,
No, because various cars had the accelerator in the middle, the brake on the right,
Yep.
and the clutch on the left. And some
Bentley
of them
did that, yep.
Yeah, and then some of them had sort of like the accelerator on the right, the brake in the middle, and then the clutch in the middle, and then the brake somewhere else altogether.
Yeah.
They were all over the place, all the pedals, and this was the first one with the 3-pedal configuration that we know today. The other thing that it had was cruise control. It was
Really?
Yep, it had a mechanical cruise control on the steering wheel. So essentially, you'd hold the throttle at the speed you want, and you move this like dial, and it would just hold the throttle at that level of throttle. So when you started to go uphill, it would slow down, and when you went downhill, it would speed up. It wasn't speed related; it was throttle.
Well, the thing
related.
is that compare that to, say, a Model T, which would have still been in production at the time.
Yep.
The Model T effectively only had what you're calling cruise control. So there are pedals, but they're not the accelerator, none of them. And what you have is on the wheel 2 like little stalks, and one of which is the ignition timing, and one of which is the throttle. So you basically just set your amount of throttle and then just let go, and it holds it there. There's no springing action. There's no, you set the throttle and that's it. Because obviously it was designed at a time when you didn't really need to stop and start with. You started at the beginning of your journey and then you stopped at the end. Like it was different times.
It's interesting. It's like kind of a Betamax versus VHS, HD DVD versus Blu-ray. All the ways that they were manufactured with different kind of ways and standards of cars meant to be driven, and then finally one comes along and actually settle on. Every car's been pretty much the same since. That is part of the history, isn't it? Like with everything, there's so many in whatever field of things you're interested in, not just cars. There'll always be some kind of starting and defining point. So it's quite cool that you got to kind of drive a car, which was really a definitive point in history for the motor car.
For sure.
But back onto our topic, something that's worth mentioning that I didn't get to say because James was giving the impression that I got my driving license in 1925. It was actually 1991. And what's interesting is So that means I've been driving for 34 years, if my maths.
When Terminator 2 came out.
Yeah.
The year I was born.
And it was the year that he was born. I was driving cars when you were a twinkle in your parents' eyes, as they say.
Yeah.
And but nonetheless, we still, all three of us, like a lot of the same cars, and most of them weren't built recently. No. And I think this is the topic we're really kind of getting into today, because young people of today, is there even a future for the younger car enthusiast, as the cars that they are enthusiastic about, one by one, become either completely unaffordable to purchase or completely unaffordable to maintain, or cease to exist altogether?
So I actually think that what we were just talking about is quite relevant here, because when I talk to a lot of young petrol heads, and I think we've got to acknowledge something here, okay? The petrol head, the dedicated enthusiast, has always been a minority. We have always been a niche. Now, you go on forums and that, and people act like that's not the case. But the truth is, like, the person that was more interested in steering feel and fuel economy was always the odd one out. It just so happened that a lot of the people working at car companies were people like us. And so 25 years ago, ordinary, boring, normal cars, 1.4 litre hatchback shopping cars, were really good fun to drive.
Yep.
Particularly at Ford, you got the Richard Parry Jones era, and I've spoken recently about the brilliance of the Mark I Focus. Because the Mark I Focus is one of those cars that I think on all fronts was just superb. A really good looking car, particularly considering the age of it. It has aged really, really well. Like, it's almost unthinkable that came out when, a Cavalier and stuff was still in production. And it drove fabulously, had some great engines, but also did all the important stuff, was practical, economical, accessible, relatively well featured for its day, yada, yada, yada. And even now, like a 1.6 Focus is actually just all the car you would technically ever need.
30 grand
for an RS.
For an RS?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were a third of that a few years back. Yeah. Mark I RS is quite cool. It's a good looking thing. But yeah, you can pick up a common or garden variety for a grand or something like that.
Yeah, I was looking on eBay the other day. You can get some good examples of a 1.6 post facelift now, because a lot of the 90s ones, and they've just succumbed to time at this point. It's just kind of what happens.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But you can get some for about $2.5 grand. I saw a really nice example of one the other day, and I was almost thinking, oh, do you know what? If I wasn't buying the new car I am now, that would almost be an enticing proposition. I've got an offer to drive one, actually, a 2-litre one from my friend.
Yes,
Darren,
you do. Yeah, we've definitely got to organise that. So at lunchtime, maybe we'll send some emails, things, and make that happen.
I think we will, because that is a car I've wanted to drive for 15 years.
Have you ever driven one?
I've never driven a Mark I Focus.
Mark II?
Mark II, yes. And I remember, thinking, yeah, it's a pretty decent car. It was a little bit more, I would not say boring, but it was competent. It felt very comfortable to drive, and it was one of those where I felt you could throw it around, it would still be okay.
The Mark II Focus, I will admit, is my kryptonite.
Is it?
It is, and I should tell you exactly why. It is the car I learned to drive in.
Okay.
It was the AA liveried Mark II Focus with an amazing instructor, Glenn, who was ex-RAF and just a really, really good guy. And obviously clearly set the groundwork for, where I am today. I was just into cars anyway, but it's one thing being into them, and it's quite another actually learning how to drive. And I just never got on with that car, like, ever. Like, I always find it fascinating when I talk to people who are driving now that they're always worried about dual carriageways and motorways. To me, I just dreamed of a motorway, because I was in a motorway. You don't generally have to stop. Whereas in town, you're forever stopping and starting. And I could never get on with the clutch and throttle in the car. And I was forever stalling it. And I felt so incompetent. And then when I started driving other stuff, I was fine. So, I don't know, 17 years later, I got to drive a 1.6 Mark II. And when I drove it, I noticed, yeah, it is actually a bit of a bugger to get off the line. Now I've got the experience, I can just go, that's annoying, and just deal with it, you know. But I can see how back then it was a frustration. But thing here is, you've got your petrol heads, your niche people, you know, us effectively, and I suspect this counts for most of the people listening. But you've also got your average, ordinary, everyday punters, people that just, you know, feel they need a car in their lives.
I was at a barbecue a couple of weeks ago. Me and my son Damani were there, and talking with a variety of different people. And somebody said, "Oh, you know what? I just find it really interesting how you're both so into cars." And they know about the channel and stuff like that, or the channels, I should say. And they said, "I just don't understand. Why do you need more than one car?" And I said to her, I said, "Well, why do you need more than one handbag?" She was like, "Well, I use them for different occasions." And I said, "Exactly." And she was like, "Yeah, but what's the point? You just have to get in your car and you go to work and you pick up the kids and you do that." I said, "That's not how we use our cars."
Yeah.
And I said, "We use our cars for all sorts of different things. And like, we want to go on track. We go on a road trip. We go to discover incredible driving roads, and you want to experience those driving roads with the sort of dynamic feedback that you get from a car that's designed for performance more than comfort." And all of these other things that we talked about. And we got to the end of it. She's like, "Nope, still don't get it."
Thing is, though, right?
And that's the average person.
Yeah.
So yesterday, I think, was a really perfect example. So I had my track day, been planned for quite some time. I wanted to take the Scuderia. I was a little bit worried whether it would pass the noise test or not, but it was away for service. Nothing's really wrong with it. There was a couple of little parts we needed. They hadn't arrived in time, but I thought, that's okay. Do you know what? I'll take the F12 round instead. And I'd already done one track day with it last year, and it actually did surprisingly well. And it turns out I didn't knacker it. So I thought, you know what? I'm not really planning on doing too many sessions with it, but I'll take it on, you know, do a few laps with it. And then unfortunately on Saturday, it shredded its alternator belt, leaving me effectively stuck. So my good friend Chris, who's been helping me with some of the podcast recently, he stepped in at the last minute and offered me the services of his VW Up, which was a fine substitute for the F12. But here's the thing. I could have not driven at all. I could have almost not gone out on track at all and still had a great day, because it was all about getting some people together who've obviously got an interest in common, and contrary to popular belief, we didn't just talk about cars. Granted, 99 to 99.5% of the conversation was car-centric, but your people there, you all have different jobs, you all have different careers, there are other passions that you share, and it brings you together. You know, and it's why I know you gents are the same, are so passionate about, you know, uniting petrol heads of different types, because I think, you know, we do have some real tangible issues, particularly with young men, you know, who can struggle to sometimes just interact. And it's not because of, you know, any particular mental issue or whatever. It's just the practicalities of it. It's the, where do you go to talk to people, you know, and just be social, you know? And the cars are a great excuse, because you go to a car show, you go to something, you see a car that you like, you know, you can see a person there, and it's not necessarily even the owner, but if you see someone there looking at it, you're like, right, I have a connection with that person over there I've never met in my life, and you can start a conversation.
I just want to say briefly, that is exactly what happened to me yesterday on my way back from the track day. So it was a good old drive. I think at that time of day, it was looking like a 3-hour drive back for me. So I thought I'd stop at the services and so just get out, stretch my legs. And I parked up, hadn't really noticed that there was a Porsche Taycan with the...
Oh, don't ask me to name the model, like, yeah.
Oh, you know the one with the not the hatchback, the shooting brake version.
Oh, yeah, Sport Turismo or Cross Turismo. Yeah,
that one of those.
Yeah.
And some bog standard 911. I noticed that they were sort of parked there. I parked a little few spaces down, because obviously, you know, you try to leave some space between your cars. And I got out of the car and I heard them say something to me. And I was on the phone at the time and I heard them say something to me. And I turned around and I said, sorry, what? He was like, oh, it looks like you've been on a long drive. And I went, how can you tell? And they were like, oh, you know, see you were getting out, feeling the struggle there. That's exactly why we've stopped as well. And I went, okay, cool. I'll see you in a minute. So I finished my call and I went over. We ended up talking. Turns out they are car enthusiasts, but they happen to be people who work for Porsche, and they are basically pick up and deliver cars. Who knows? Maybe they've delivered a car to you once. You never know.
Yeah, there's a chance they have.
And we got talking, and then this incredible, I should have taken a picture of it. I don't know why I didn't, but incredible RS6, an ABT build.
Ooh, that's a bit of you.
800 horsepower in this thing. Honestly, it wasn't really a bit of me in the sense that it was matte black wrap on it, but it was lowered nicely, had nice wheels, had the whole thing. And the guy got out and seemed like I would not say, he seemed a little awkward socially, shall we say. And he just got out of that car, walked up to us and said, oh, hi guys. I didn't know where to park. And then I saw all of you here and I thought, this is where I'm going to park. And then the next thing you know, we're all talking. Random people who would normally just kind of have their heads down, looking at their phones, figuring out who do I text and what notification do I swipe. Instead, he gets out of his car and he interacts with other people. And that for me is the beauty of cars. And that's why I said to them, just as I was leaving, I said, you know what I love about this is that this is what cars are about. It's about creating these kinds of moments where people who would generally never have otherwise had a reason to talk to each other get to know each other, no matter how different we are.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those where I've experienced that a lot with people. I'm somebody who can talk all day about anything until the cow come home and talk to anyone, you know. It's just who I am as a person. But it's nice when you do meet, and I see it a lot with cars, is people, not at Helmingham, you know, there's a few people come up, which you could tell were maybe shy or perhaps, you know, not that good at speaking to people sometimes, and they come up in a way, and then all of a sudden they've kind of eased into it, and they're having conversations with you, and you're talking to people that you normally would have never had a chance to speak to before, unless it was to do, you know, with cars. And these people have actually, you know, they're funny, intelligent, they got stuff to say, you know, and you know, quick with XYZ, and they're all nice people, but otherwise you would just pass them in the street and you would have never had any idea there's anything in common. And they never the kind of people would see talking to somebody at a bar or at a show or something like that, like music things, venues, like, you know what I mean, like in day-to-day life.
Yeah, or I find society in general, certainly in Britain and I'm sure elsewhere, has changed quite a bit in that, you know, 25, 30 years ago, just went down a pub.
Yep.
You know? So many people I knew in a variety of different jobs, you're like, after you finished at work, didn't you have to be a Friday? Go down a pub.
Yep.
You know, it's just what people did, but they don't now.
Yes, that's a whole other conversation. Now, the funny thing is, I actually, for the first time really in my whole life, only about 5 years ago, actually went to the pub, as in the local community hub, that where people would drink and talk to people they didn't really know or probably wouldn't otherwise get to meet. And one of the reasons why I kept going, because I ended up going in one night, just felt like it, and somebody random just started talking to me, and I think in that one night I met a chippy, a painter and decorator, a television production assistant, a car dealer, and it's just like,
sounds like a setup for a great joke, doesn't it? And a nun.
No nuns, no nuns or priests that evening. But you know, it's like you do. It really is a place that you get to meet people from all walks of life, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of would make sure that I'd periodically go, because then I'd get to meet people who are completely different to me, doing completely different things, coming from completely different backgrounds, and you realize actually how insular, if you like, your little world can become with the types of people that you socialize with. But the car community gives you that same thing, except without the alcohol.
Yeah, and, okay, allow me to do the and make this all relevant now. So, we've established petrol-heady people, great, lovely, cool, but we're niche.
Yep.
We're niche, we're unusual. The reality is the majority of your car sales, especially new car sales, are made up of people that aren't actually that interested. And this also applies sometimes to cars where we'd like to think they're only bought by petrol heads, but that's often not the case. Porsche in particular, I would say, is pretty bad for people buying it just because they're like, well, I've done well in life and I want everybody to know that I've done well in life, ergo, I'm going to buy a Porsche. You get this to a lesser extent with Ferrari, but it definitely does happen. Also the same with Lamborghini.
I think Lamborghini's definitely in that.
Lamborghini, you get a lot of guys that are like, I want everybody to know. Like, a Lamborghini's almost a bit like the sort of like, you know, how do you know somebody owns a Lamborghini? You're like, they'll tell you.
Yeah, but there's 50. I'd say there's 50-50. I was talking about this with someone the other day because I was trying to decide, well, where do I go to an independent specialist or do I go to a Lamborghini dealership? And I thought, you know what? With the R8, I would go to the independent specialist because I think for the majority of people that get R8s, based on my experiences, they are genuine enthusiasts, and they know that specific independent service center, or
Whatever you want to call it,
whatever you want to call it,
Garage.
RE Performance Garage, is that stamp is better than a main dealer stamp. But in the Lamborghini world, I'd say 50% of the people will know that that's a better stamp than a Lamborghini one because they'll know that they actually did fill up the oil to the amount it was supposed to, rather than leaving it not fully filled and sending my friend off in his Huracan without enough oil in it. The chances of that happening there are very, very low. But the other 50% will be like, oh, well, they won't know because they're not enthusiasts. They just want a Lamborghini and that's it.
Yeah. I would say the best brands actually for being enthusiast owned, in my experience, are Lotus and McLaren. Caterham, yeah.
You have to be an enthusiast to want a Caterham.
I think you have to be an enthusiast and then something else on top as well. But we've had a bit of a problem, particularly over the last 5 years and to some extent over the last 10 years, which is that a lot of people now find themselves with less need of a car. Either they've decided it's actually just a little bit too expensive and it's just not something they really want. They've realized that now they can get their shopping delivered, so they don't have to. You know, there's a whole bunch of people I've known over decades who you're like, if they could live without a car, they would. But it was the case that they couldn't. And some of these people were still very much attached to their cars in the same way that maybe I'm attached to a particular pair of trainers. You know, I'm not a trainer person. I'm not really into shoes. I don't really care. But some of them mean something to me. The same with watches. You know, I'm not a watch person. I couldn't identify, you know, what's a Hulk? What's a Submariner? You know, what's a Seamaster? I don't know. I kind of know what these things are, but like, I have some watches that I really like. I have some that are my own. I have some that I like for sentimental reasons. You know, there's a watch that I promised myself that all my watch-owning friends have told me, like, oh, don't buy one of those. It's not the right investment. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I don't give a toss about whether it's a good investment or not. I want it because when I was 13, I saw it in the window of the shop in town, the Posh Jewelers, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And one day, I thought I would like to be able to buy what is like a £10,000 watch now, unfortunately. And it does, like, they'll be like, oh, don't buy that. Go and buy this one that's 10 grand because in 5 years it'll be worth 12 and the one you want is going to be worth 5. Like, I don't care. You don't get it. That's not not how it works. However, with cars, of course, not only have they gotten more expensive, you now have a lot more alternatives. I wish I would say that public transport in Britain has gotten so much better, the car is redundant. Actually, I think it's gone backwards. But services have come in, particularly, you know, Uber Eats, Deliveroo, Just Eat, all that sort of stuff. How Just Eat is still in business, I don't know. But people just don't need a car anymore. And for young people, it's not something that they can afford so much. But companies like Renault with the 5, ordinary people that wouldn't consider themselves car people are looking at things like that and going, oh, actually, I'd like one of them. And that's something that's been missing from the affordable car segment for a very, very long time. I would say the cars in most recent memory that have done that would be the Fiat 500 and the Abarth iterations and the Mini. You know, cars where people look at it and go, I want one.
Do you know what's funny? My wife is not a car person. She's had both a Mini and a Fiat 500 because they look great and they're cute and she really liked them because of that. She doesn't really care about how a car drives as long as it's powerful enough to get her onto the dual carriageway and it doesn't feel unstable and is comfortable. That's all she asks from a car. And those cars did that, as well as looking cool and being a bit of a fashion statement.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons cars like that have probably sold so much as well. And I think that is going to happen with the Renault 5s and the 4s. And if the Twingo, if it comes along, they're going to be cute, fun-looking cars. And nobody will care that they're electric either. They won't buy them because they're electric cars. They'll buy them because they look fun and they're interesting.
Mm-hmm. And they're affordable.
Yes.
Relatively speaking, yes, they're more than cars that came before, but a Renault 5 is not the sort of thing you'd look at and go, well, I'll never be able to have one of those because you will, and they'll probably depreciate like most EVs do, or, generally new cars kind of depreciate anyway. So you're like, yeah, you will be able to have one of those. You got the Alpine, the hot version. I love that this is happening, and hopefully it inspires other manufacturers to do more. It's why the Honda E, I think, was so close to greatness because it looked so funky and was so interesting. I think they just fell so far short on the the reality of it with the range and everything. I think that was a misstep from Honda. But fundamentally, what an awesome thing.
Yeah, when that Renault 5 in 3 to 4 years' time comes on the used market and it is halved in value, I think I will seriously be considering one of those because I think they look so awesome. And I saw the A290. I sent a photo of it to you guys in person the other day.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
And that looked so cool. Like it was all totally blacked out and everything. And I was like,
Alpine were at piston heads. The only thing I noted is it does actually, it's quite a bit bigger in person than you think. But the shape of it, the looks of it, the interior, I looked at it, I'm like, you know what? I can get on board with that. And I'm glad to see these because what has been happening, the point of this podcast today, is that, and what's worrying to me is that we have people of, say the generation before us, and they would grow up and they would lust after, if you're like my dad's generation, it'd be, Ford Capris, stuff like that, Mark 1, Mark 2 Capris. And then, of course, that turned typically into hot hatches and things like that. So, Escort RS Cosy, that sort of thing. And then, of course, your next generation would come along and they'd be after the Focus RS or so on. And, there'd always be a 911 of the day. There'd always be an M3 of the day or whatever. But the thing is, when I talk to young enthusiast petrol heads now, when I was growing up, when I was 16, 17, what was the coolest stuff around? V8 M3 had just come out. That was cool as hell. 997 generation 911, that had come out. That was cool as hell. Ferrari F430 was new. That was the cool thing. That was the latest Ferrari. Gallardo was new, and the Gallardo was just awesome and actually a hugely important car, like easy to forget. But you're like, the Gallardo was a massive deal for Lamborghini because it's basically their first entry-level car since the 80s or so.
Was that one of the first ones that was fully built under the Volkswagen Audi group as well?
So it would have been the first model that was designed from the ground up. Strictly speaking, the first car they built under Audi ownership was the later Diablo.
Okay.
And the Murcielago, people don't want to admit it, but it's true. A Murcielago is a facelifted Diablo. That's what it is. And in fact, a later Diablo has more in common with the Murcielago than it does an early Diablo. They did a heck of a lot. And then, of course, you get the Aventador later on, which is very much all new. But yeah, Gallardo. But you talk to people now, and you would expect that they're then going to give you the modern day equivalents. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them say E92 generation M3, Ferrari 360, first gen Audi R8, specifically first gen. Iron Man had one. Like, that's always very, very cool. And I think that also is something that we're not seeing enough of now. I think so many cars out there, if we actually admitted it, right, if we really thought about it, and us petrol heads, we all know these things. but we're terrible at admitting it. There are so many cars out there that are legendary, brilliant, amazing cars that are properly good to drive, right? But if we actually admitted it, the reason we lusted after it has got nothing to do with how it drives.
No.
Because for a lot of us, I say this to people, Ant and I talked recently to some people that are trying to even build a car. Thing with a car, first thing you do is you see it. The second thing you do is you hear it. Then maybe, eventually you get to drive it, right? But that's actually the last thing that you do. And for some people, if it doesn't drive that well, it doesn't even matter. Yep. They don't care, right? But so many of the cars that we all lust after them because maybe they appeared in a movie. You know how many people want to buy a 355 because it was in GoldenEye or The Rock?
I wanted to have an E38 7 Series because of the Bond. Was it GoldenEye or which Bond one was it?
Tomorrow Never
Tomorrow
Dies.
Never Dies. It was being controlled by the PDA in the back or whatever it was.
Also, I saw actually there was an article from the director of the Naked Gun reboot talking about Tomorrow Never Dies. You're like, think about this. A James Bond movie in which the villain is a media mogul who is creating deliberately sensationalist headlines using his own privately hired group of mercenaries and then getting the scoop on things in advance because they're situations he's created, who is in the process of building a worldwide media network that he intends to use to fuel disinformation and create conflict throughout the world for personal gain. You're like,
that sounds really familiar.
And that was and in 1997 we all sat there going, no, this is not believable at all. This is nonsense. Like, can't we go back to the good old days with some psycho in a volcano hollowed out that wants to blow up the world with a nuclear bomb? It's just it's one of those films you're like, this was really ahead of its time. And of course he drives the car with the Nokia phone, which, I mean, even a touchscreen on a phone was like just, not unheard of because it did exist technically in technology, but you're like, the stuff he did then, which was like, this can't happen. Now probably Colin Firth would do for a laugh, But that was a great film. Shout out to our good buddy Bender Sparkle, The Transporter. That I think also has an E38 7 Series in it. Transporter 3 I caught a bit of in the pub the other night. He's driving an Audi A8 W12.
Yep.
Gone in 60 Seconds. You've got the Eleanor in that. Le Mans, Steve McQueen drives a 911. Heck, I'm sure there are people that grew up watching the Disney movie Cars that like a 911 because there was one in that. I mean, there's so much cool stuff out there.
I like a 911 because of Condor Man. Look it up.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, they're flakball.
Do you know what's also interesting as well when I think about cars, and because they had the MX-5 or the Miata in cars, didn't they? The ones which had the areas where they popped up the headlights to be flashing.
Yes,
which was funny.
The twins, wasn't it?
Exactly, the twins.
The twins, yeah.
The twins. But a lot of people who are 17, 18, 19, 20, they're still after Mark 1 MX-5s.
Yep.
They are still cars people lust after. I know one recent example. There's someone on Instagram who I've seen, I think, is it Driven by Meg or something like that?
Nice.
Possibly, but she's like become a little bit of a car influencer and stuff as well. And one of the things she had is an MX-5, and I think she's only like 20 as well. So, yet again, people are building on the cars that I was playing around with when I was their age still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. I was actually talking to her at an after party at an event.
Oh, so you've met her then, have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
At an after party, and massive car enthusiast.
Yeah.
Gets hands on as well. Actually works on her cars, and I think it was the MX-5. I can't remember what the other car was that she had that she's been working on, but yeah, she's massive car enthusiast.
That's really, really good to see. And let's face it, the influencers now are also going to be who people are looking towards for the cars they buy. And I think maybe in some ways this is partly responsible for this kind of stalling in the desirability of cars, or the age of desirable cars, because people that are on social media tend to be a lot younger than, say, your TV presenters and whatnot. It's just the nature of the beast. So you're getting people that are in their 20s. So they're then buying the cars, they're in their 20s or 30s, they're then buying the cars that they wanted as kids, which are relatively youthful cars, 15, 20-year-old cars, that sort of thing. And the people watching them are going to say, oh, I really want to buy one of these. We all know, without it being in the Fast and the Furious, that an R34 Skyline GTR just wouldn't be worth anywhere near as much as it is now.
Or the Supra.
Yeah, or the Supra, for sure. It's one of these things, isn't it? It's really curious that the cars now, the value of them is dictated by so much more than what the car actually is. I mean, I maintain, I don't think I've actually mentioned this before, but it sort of dawned on me the other day. We all talk, when people build lists of the greatest car in the world ever, either at the top of it or very close to it, you're going to find the McLaren F1, right? And I have a theory that there is one reason and one reason only that car is held in such impossibly high regard. And I think this is going to be an unpopular take. But if you think I'm right, write in. If you think I'm wrong, write in bold. It's not the central driving position. It's not the innovative carbon fiber construction. It's not the combination of the lightweight and the brilliant BMW naturally aspirated V12. It's not the fact it cleaned up at Le Mans and beat cars that should have been much, much quicker. It's just the fact that for about 10 years, if you looked up in your Guinness Book of Records, fastest car in the world, it's the McLaren F1. And it held the title for so long. Also, most expensive car in the world, I think, for a little while as well, that you could buy new.
Yep.
Nothing is ever, I think, going to be able to hold that title for that long. Never again. Not the Veyron, not anything. And so there's a whole generation of people that grew up where you're like, the ultimate, the peak, the pinnacle is the McLaren F1. Now, it just so happens that there's a whole bunch of other stuff about the car, which is also true. But it's also interesting to me that top speed was not a priority for the people that built it. They just took it out there and found out that, oh, crikey, it really is quite fast, almost by accident. And so I think that's going to be something that's very, very hard to replicate going forwards. But that's also what's kind of pushed the price of these things into the stratosphere.
What was the top speed in the McLaren F1?
247.
241.
Oh, wow, it was that fast. I just thought it was in the early 200s. I didn't realise it was
241. Yeah.
Wow.
Set in fact, is it not set in XP5 that you sat in?
I think it might have been, yes.
Yeah.
What car was it that beat it finally?
So that's a really interesting question because it depends on how you count it.
Right.
Because it depends on, do you count it as production car? Because there'll always be somebody that comes along and says, hey, well, Callaway built this sledgehammer Corvette thing and that did 250 mile an hour. Or they'll say there was already a car that was even faster than the F1. Or generally speaking, what you called it was production car.
Yeah.
And you could make an argument that the McLaren F1 wasn't really much of a production car. They built, 107 of them or something? And they're all ungodly expensive. So it's almost pointless. But still, at one point in time, if you had the money, you could have walked to McLaren and said, gimme, and they would have built it. And it was how the thing left the factory. Although, again, you could make an argument and say, well, actually, the record is disingenuous because, was it 240.1? Anyway, you could...
240.1.
240.1, there you go. You could say that, well, actually, they only achieved the record because they took the rev limiter off.
Yes.
So basically, you could say, well, actually, that's not really the top speed of the car.
I was just literally looking that up.
Yeah. So
1998, they set the record.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Andy Wallace, I think, did it.
I think so.
Yeah.
He's at Bugatti now, isn't he?
I believe he might be. Yeah. So Veyron certainly beat it, and as a production car, you would definitely say that is the same amount of production car. There were various other small manufacturers as well. I think it's SSC. Yeah, had a go at it, but how valid their records were as well, and of course, how you measure a record is also a subject of some debate. But this is also all serves to reinforce the legacy of the F1. It's like a Saturn V almost. You're like, even if something's beat, it's like Titanic. You could park Titanic next to a modern day cruise ship and it would dwarf it. You know, it'll be enormous. You look up pictures of like Titanic versus, you know, the Empress of the Seas or whatever floating ecological time bomb they've got currently on the waters, right? Titanic is tiny, but because it was the biggest for such a long time, and of course also had a story attached to it, it has entered the popular consciousness. You know, it has gone beyond, you know, and I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who, you know, love maritime stuff that are sick to death of hearing about Titanic, because like, can you please talk about other much more technically remarkable boats? Although Titanic was also quite technically advanced for its day, and quite innovative, but there's a lot to it. But again, you're like, it's really simple. If you want to set something, if you want to really, really enter the imagination, I think you just take one thing and do it better than everyone else. But I think now with EVs, that's actually going to be really hard to do.
I was going to say that's where something has to become more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. And that's what I think, again, the Renault 5 has done so well, is that it's just done that simplest of things, which is look cool.
Yeah.
You know, that's because actually, how much power has the Renault 5 got? Anyone know?
I think the entry is 120 horsepower, and then the higher end one is 150, and the Alpine, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Like, it's the thing, like, I don't know. I don't know how much power it's got. I don't even know the exact price of it. No. I didn't even know the boot space of it. Like, I don't know anything about Renault 5. Obviously, if I'm going to review one at some point, I'll do all my research. But the point is, I know people want it. And they don't care. As long as they can afford it, they'll go and buy it. So, shall we have a look through some of the photos that we took over at Helmingham and talk a little bit about some of the cars we saw and see maybe which ones we think could be ripe for coming back, or that if we could, we would buy with our very own money.
Yes, you did the photo taking for me.
I did, so don't you worry. I shall talk you through it, dear. Okay?
I've got one.
Yeah?
I mentioned it off camera. Corrado.
Oh, you know I've got a weakness for those. You know it.
So do I.
VR6. Are you talking about the one that was there in that sort of dark purple colour?
Was it purple or green?
Oh, the green is nice as well.
I got into the Corrado. I think it was the first. Was it the first Forza Horizon? Did you play that game, James? It was the one.
Yes.
And they had the Corrado. That was like the centerpiece car, wasn't it? I think, or the car you start with, or something like that.
That one.
Oh, so yeah, there was another one there, but that's really, really. Is that is green, isn't it? It's a really dark green.
It's a dark green.
Are they aftermarket wheels on it as well? Actually, it looks really good on it, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's really, really nice.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, what I wouldn't mind doing is trying to find somewhere that could do like some custom LED DRL headlights.
That must be easily doable.
And, you know, honestly, some nice wheels.
Yeah.
The headlights and the fog light area, sort that out. And that would just look like a modern car.
You know what? He's right. And I talked a little bit recently in a video on the main channel, and I did discuss the Corrado in one of the podcasts I recorded with Chris as well. To me, because the Corrado also, you're like, we all know it's just a Golf, right? It's just a Golf, but it looks so much cooler. And I think this is something that car makers, they're just going to have to realize this again. You're like, just make cars people want. All you need to do is build a car. Like a Corrado is a sexy enough car that there's probably a bunch of people out there who are on the fence as to maybe whether even to buy a car at all. And if they see something like that and go, yeah, I do want that. I do want that. You know, you're like, and they're like, you know, sorry, I'll have it.
Probably one of the reasons the Scirocco sold so well as well, because that was a good looking car, and that was just like a Mark 5/Mark 6 Golf in its life.
Yeah, Mark
like
5.
Yeah, exactly that.
And that for me is the thing. I'd love to see a modern sort of EV treatment, you know, modern design treatment on something like the Corrado. I think that would work really well, and it'd be the kind of car that I think people will look at and think, yeah, I want one of those, and maybe they'll get some entry level equivalent like the e-Golf or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
You know, as their stepping stone towards getting the more expensive Corrado that's got the slightly more powerful motors and a slightly more powerful battery and all that stuff.
I mean, essentially, that is the car that I think what you're talking about there is, in my mind, what Capri should have been.
Yes.
You know, sexy looking coupe, So a car that has appeared a couple of years in a row, one of my favorites, a bright yellow late model Diablo.
Yeah.
Just the archetypal supercar.
Yep.
The sort of thing that I know, had we taken it out on the track day, would have been utterly and totally out of its depth and
Yep.
probably terrifying, but you just don't care because it looks so good.
Yep.
There was also both a Countach and a Countach replica.
Yeah.
Yes.
That threw me off because you pointed it out to me. Well, didn't you say it's like the only reason you initially saw it was because it had an extra gear or something like that?
Yeah, the replica actually is a pretty darn good looking replica. And yeah, I sort of peered inside it and I was like, hang on a minute, there's too many gears in that.
Is it 6-speed?
It's 6-speed, yeah. A big Charger.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
The old land yacht.
That was the one, I think it has some kind of pearlescent or sparkly paint on it as well, isn't it?
Incredibly bright, yeah. Here's something really super cool. This is a bit of Will. It's a beige Saab estate.
Oh, yeah, I saw that and I was having a mild crisis.
Oh, he really was.
There's not enough beige cars these days, that's all I'll say.
For me personally, I want to go back to the cars that I would like to see used as inspiration for a modern EV. And I've forgotten the name of this car. It's Frank's Alfa Romeo.
I think it's a Giulia, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's an old Giulia.
Oh, well, I didn't remember the name of it, but it is gorgeous. I'd love to see something more like that.
Yeah, so you could replicate that because again, all you need to do is take a few of the key points, like the lines of the body. I think it's a 70s Giulia, I'm sure. Although I could very much be wrong. Unlike AI, I am not certain of myself. And you get the headlights, get a few little design tweaks and things, and yeah, it's going to be bigger, but it's still going to be cool as hell. And this is the thing about Helmingham that I love is, like you say, it's the variety, because I know it wouldn't be like your ideal show, and I know you do go to some other shows, and maybe you'll have to drag me along to one of the shows you like to go to, because I can still appreciate stuff that isn't me.
Well, we had some variety just in the stand alone. Like the front part, which just our cars. We had the Lambo, we had the F12, we had the Merc, and then we had my friend's 70s camper van as well, which was quite
bay
cool.
window camper.
Yeah.
That was awesome. So here's a car that I don't think really knew much about, but properly fell in love with. It's the Porsche 914.
Yeah, I remember that game. I remember that car from the game Need for Speed Porsche Challenge or Porsche Unleashed, as it might have been another.
Porsche 2000.
Porsche 2000. That was the one, and it was a car I always played in it. And I thought, I looked at those. Just thought they're so cool. They were so different.
Yeah.
Like the 911s and stuff at the time. They just looked really funky. And I haven't known loads about it, but I saw that car. And I was like, that was a highlight of the show for me. That car actually.
Yeah.
And we got to have a good chat with the owner as well. I think they said they won it in a competition.
Bridge Classic Cars. Yeah, who
Yeah.
were also, I think, at the show. Yeah, he won it. And we might be able to get it on the channel at some point.
Oh yeah,
that'd be cool.
That's lovely.
Yeah,
that.
so because he's a fan.
I've always been curious about those cars.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go in one. Now another car I think that all three of us can agree upon: E39 generation BMW M5.
Very cool.
I love that car so much. But as I was saying to you while we were at the show, and I think we maybe discussed this as well in one of the podcasts with Ben, is an E39 M5 worth it over the cost of, say, a really nice sorted 540i manual now? Because the E39 M5s have skyrocketed in price. And yes, the V8 manual 540s are a bit more expensive, but surely the difference is not worth it that much to pay an extra £40,000.
It's an interesting one because it's the eternal debate. Because, somebody buying this car new would have probably had that question to answer. And in fact, it was easier for them because they could have easily found a 540 manual because they could have just bought one. But I think the sporting argument, I think, is kind of gone because nowadays an E39 M5 is not as sporting as it once was. Some of it is going to be, yes, it is a better car. Most of it's going to be, it's the investment. Like, you're paying because it is still the M5.
And I think when you're buying a new car, a lot of people will, like you say, look at the car, decided that's the car I want, and then try to find the numbers to justify their decision. Someone who works in marketing told me that many, many years ago. And I think the question people try to answer is it that much worth that much more in terms of, is it that much better?
Yes.
But it's not. Is it that much more desirable? And it could just be something as simple as the way that it looks,
Yeah.
the badge on it, and the fact that it's important to them that it's actually a real original car, not one that's got a rep body kit on it.
Yeah.
We are fascinated, aren't we, as humans, with this notion of originality. You know, like a Clio 182 trophy is worth 10 grand. A Clio 182 is worth like 3 grand or something. And the only difference really is, I think, special paint dampers and the fact it's a limited edition. So really, you can get a car that drives identically for the cost of a regular car and a set of dampers. And the fact is, the dampers probably go on the trophy anyway. But a trophy, a real trophy, is always going to be worth more money.
It's interesting you mentioned this, actually, because you were talking about the classic car place you guys sometimes get things. So they've got the Peugeot 206 Roland Garros in at the moment, haven't they?
Yeah. Oh, man, I love the look of that.
Which looks so cool. Like, essentially, it's like the same engine and the same suspension and everything else as the standard 206, which is worth like 500 quid. And I think this car's up for like, was it 3.5? Something like maybe 2.5? Three.
Yeah.
It's just 3. But it's so cool and so desirable because it's that interesting interior.
I would want to buy that and the GTI that he has and basically make a GTI but that looks like a Roland Garros.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool because you got the green paint, the brown leather interior, like all the nice stuff. Now, and I just saw on your phone, he had a picture of, I think, maybe the ultimate example of a car that is a terrible car but has entered the popular consciousness to the point that I could see somebody getting a driving license just to have one of these. We're, of course, talking about the DeLorean.
Oh, yes. We had one on the stand, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And we might also be able to get to drive that as well. As the owner has offered it to us. He has a YouTube channel as well. It does have a flux capacitor in it.
Excellent.
And he will be doing some work on it. And when it is ready, like all DeLoreans, it is a sort of effectively a rolling restoration. But yeah.
I would like to see, I've actually seen a few sort of either renders or I think there's 1 or 2 actually real resto modded DeLoreans in America, I think.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And there was one that was black and it just looked absolutely stunning. And you just think, you know, I think what they did is they've replaced all the panels and done all sorts of other things, crazy things to reduce the weight of the car because those stainless steel panels were, you know, a terrible idea. And it's I can't remember what engine they put in it. There's people have done all sorts of things. There's some EV conversions that people have done.
Which actually
it makes sense.
It makes so much sense for a DeLorean.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not exactly going to do big miles in it. It's quite futuristic and cool.
Yeah.
And the engine that's in it is a heap.
That is something I'm excited about, actually, is EV conversions as things go forward. Because obviously you've now got the technology of like Tesla and Nissan. They had the Leaf and the stuff like that. Those are the first people doing conversions and stuff with running gear from those. But as time goes by and as more cheaper electric cars come out, I have a feeling it's going to be a more modern engine swap where people buy a crashed Twingo, a crashed Dacia Spring, and they'll take the engines out there and they might stick them in like maybe some kind of old hatchback or something.
motors.
Now, yeah, old habits die hard. Old habits die hard. But they'll take the drivetrain out of them and they'll put them in cars and they'll get them running. That is something I've always wanted to do, I must say.
It's always had me curious. I have only, I think, a few reservations about it. One of which is the fact that there are a great many cars out there where I just do not give a toss about the powertrain at all. DeLorean, for example. But there are also others where, like, I know somebody's done an EV conversion, I think a Ferrari 308, and I'm like, you rip the engine out of a Ferrari, you have taken the heart of the car out. I'm sorry, you just have. The cost of it also is sometimes astronomical.
Yeah, not every car should be EV converted. There are some which, as we said, which are cool because of it's what they are, not what is propelling them. Those are cars which are great examples. But like a Ferrari with an EV thing.
Yeah, and finally, again, with it becoming a more commonplace thing, I'm slightly concerned about the safety of it.
Yes.
You know, because you are putting into these cars that maybe weren't particularly safe when they were new, considerably more power and weight. And it's just one of these little things where I look at it and I go, you've gone and doubled the power of that car and added another half a ton to it, and you've done it in a shed. And sometimes these are proper engineering firms that really do know exactly what they're doing. But as it becomes a bit more commonplace, I think you're going to see a few more, back alley Tesla Leaf swaps.
Yeah, but mind you, there were people in the 80s and the 90s putting red top engines in Novas doing the same thing, doubling the power and adding weight to it and riding around with the standard
Not
brakes
that
and
much weight, though.
suspensions.
And they were also death traps.
Yeah, I suppose.
So, did either of you chaps ever see the gold DeLorean?
No.
Yeah, there was. This is about...
Is it gold plated?
Yeah, basically gold plated. About the most 1980s thing you'll ever see. Yeah, it was a thing to promote American Express. There's a gold plated DeLorean.
Wow.
Yeah. Mate, they plan to make 100 of them. I mean, I am... There's at least one person in the world you could imagine having bought one of those, isn't there? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and I have seen 2 of them. Of the, I think, what does it say here? The how many? Yeah, 3 actually exist, and I've seen 2 of them. One in Reno and one in LA. At the Peterson. So maybe one day I need to find the 3rd one just so I can say I've seen all of the gold-plated DeLoreans, and they were supposed to be $85,000 in 1980, whatever. So probably like a very nice Porsche money at the time, if not, I think maybe more than nice Porsche money. So back to other stuff that we saw. Oh, so this was a bit of an embarrassment for me. I thought it was a kit car, but it wasn't. It was a Marcos, a really early Marcos.
Wow.
Which is quite a fascinating little thing. Also, very cool, a Renault Sport Spider. In fact, there was a pair
they're cool.
of Renault Sport Spiders.
I know a guy that's got one of those.
Yeah, just awesome things.
I'd love to drive one of those.
Same. Just wicked looking thing. MG Metro Turbo.
Yes.
That was very, very nice. Gotcha.
MG Maestro. We saw the MG Maestro as well.
Maestro, yeah. So in fact, it was a Maestro. It was a Maestro,
Yes.
not a Metro. Unos Roadster.
Yep.
Japanese import model with the proper, beige interior with the wooden steering wheel. Like, love it. A GT40, what I assume is replica, but oddly it looks
clean.
but with a long tail on it.
Yeah.
Very odd looking thing. There was also, we saw a Stratos replica and what I think was a real Lancia 037.
Oh, wow.
Which is just stunning for that to turn up. I don't know if you spotted this bit. Are you in the car park? White new 992 GT3 RS.
Yep.
With the old ironing board on the back.
Sorry, I'm looking at Corrados on
You stuck
Trader.
right? All right, which one are we buying? Because I looked, and there was a couple out there for about 12 to 15 grand that had all the work done.
Yeah.
And they sounded like good, solid examples. You got to get the VR6,
VR6,
right?
yeah.
Like, it's got to be the VR6. The G60, I think, was just trouble. Also, do you know what? I hate it, but I love it. The Buick Grand National.
Oh yeah, that was. We didn't even notice it was there. We suddenly looked back, and I was like, "What? That's a GNX."
It's got such a distinctive side profile to it, doesn't it? And in black on black with tinted windows, like it is just a murderous car, isn't it?
That's a
really?
mean-looking machine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I may have found my first classic / daily.
Yeah, I can kind of see you in that. Like,
Not that. I'm thinking about the Corrado.
Oh,
How
right.
much are Corrados going for these days? Like nice ones.
The VR6 is low to mid teens for a really good one.
that's
below
not when you
10.
said for a really good one. That is not in the context of everything. That is not that bad. I'm sure they were buttons a few years ago, but they were probably also dogs a few years ago.
There's a Moon Mars one for 6 grand.
In the context of you needing to find your next car, which you still haven't done yet.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
That's starting to keep me going for a bit, wasn't it?
Do it now.
I was even.
Then I'll
thinking about-
buy it off you afterwards. Like,
I was thinking about the ULEZ thing. You won't want it after I'm finished with it.
that's true. Yeah.
I was thinking about the ULEZ thing about paying to go into London and everything, and I just thought, you know what? I actually probably do that maybe once a month. And if you think about, what car I possibly could buy that would cost me a lot more money, I'm definitely not going to be spending that on ULEZ fees.
If you did even if you did ULEZ and congestion. And how often do you go into the congestion charging zone? Like never, right?
Once a quarter.
So, okay, so ULEZ is, and this is the fascinating thing, right? I found this happened like when ULEZ became a thing and they expanded it to include, it's basically the M25, isn't it?
Yeah, inside the M25,
right?
most of it.
Yeah, so it's £15 a day. Is that right? Sounds about.
I think it's £12.50, isn't it?
Yeah, £12.50. I think.
It's 12. Oh, is it congestion that's £15?
I think that's £17 now.
Really?
I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
man. Either way, let's just call it £15 for the sake of argument,
Yeah.
right? The number of people I knew that sold their car because it wasn't ULEZ compliant anymore. Then when you spoke to them, they maybe weren't even going into the zone as often as you are, and you're like, hang on a minute, you did 4 trips into London a year. That's £60. Like, that's not even a tank of fuel. And you're going to go and spend £10,000-15,000 on getting something that is ULEZ compliant to save £60. Now, if you lived in the zone and every time you drove your car it cost you £15, I completely understand. I totally get it. Like, and I personally think it was a bit harsh that you even had to pay for a car you'd already owned for several years. But look, this is how it works. I get it. I don't have to like it, but I can understand it. But yeah, there's so many people I know who live in the middle of nowhere that's highly unlikely to ever have any form of emission zone or whatever. In fact, I think Manchester just revoked theirs. I was up there recently, and they had signs everywhere saying, you know, under clean air zone under review, and I think they've pulled it. So I can imagine there's probably a bunch of people that went and changed their car ahead of something that then they backed out on.
Crazy. But anyway, sorry, minor distraction, because every time I look at Corrado, I just find myself on Auto Trader looking at Corrados and thinking, oh, I really, really want one, but I can't justify it. But actually,
I think you can.
You definitely can. Like, this is a silly decision. We are both fully supportive of.
Absolutely. And however, as it's getting closer towards the end of the podcast time, I think we need to really answer the question. What are the cars that you think the youth will have a chance to get excited over? Let's really reinforce them. What are the cars that in 10 years' time, people who are now driving will be lusting after and wanting to buy and hopefully might still be within an affordable price range?
Golf R.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Mark 7, 7.5, Golf R. That, for quite some while, was like the car you went out and bought because it was fast, but totally practical. I think it is the closest we've come in the modern era to, say, like the old Escort RS Cosworth, except there's loads of them. And how many of those did they sell? They are everywhere. So they're never going to be rare enough in the next 10, 15 years to be valuable enough. Last of the line of the, pure combustion engines, that sort of thing, not overburdened with ADAS systems, all that sort of stuff. Like, I think a young person now that's just starting to learn to drive, that maybe is thinking of getting themselves like a 1 litre Polo, say, or an Up. I could see them looking up to the Golf R as being like, that. One day, that is what I'm going to have. And it's got that whole modability and customization thing going for it. So, in their head, they've probably already built their dream one, and they've wrapped it, and they've put the exhaust on it, and they've lowered it, and they put the wheels on it and everything. And yeah, I think Golf R.
What do you reckon?
Ooh. Well, I'm seeing quite an interesting surge in interest in the 370Z community. And there's on the forums or on the chat groups, there's, I don't know if I was still qualified to be on there. Mine's been off the road for so long, but there's been quite a surge in people saying, oh, I've just bought my first 370Z. What mods do you suggest? Or I've just bought my first 370Z and I'm having this little problem with it. What do you recommend? And even though it was a 2009 car, they were building them all the way up until 2022. So I would say, was it 22? Yeah, I think it was 22 or 20.
You know what? 2020 to 2022 is just one big blur. And also there's a big difference between when they stopped building them to when the supply actually dried up.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure the dealers were still selling them up until 2022.
Yeah.
And it's had such a long run, and you've got such a wide range of prices that you can pay for them, from about £6,000, £7,000, £8,000 for a relatively older one with a higher mileage, right the way up to £45,000 for an absolutely mint Nismo. And I think it's the kind of car that one of the things I think helps it in many ways is because you've got that broad range, the average person will look at a 370Z and wouldn't know whether it was the £10,000 one or the £45,000 one, as long as it looks in pretty much decent condition.
Yeah.
You know, the enthusiast would know, but the average person wouldn't know. So you can get that car and feel like you're driving a £45,000 car, even though you're actually driving around something that was 10 grand.
And they're awesome. I even drove a Roadster recently and really liked it. Yeah. Hey, and now in real terms, this will take a little while before we can talk about it in the podcast, but do you know what's being dropped on my driveway next Friday?
I do not.
240Z.
Oh.
Yeah. From the Nissan Heritage fleet.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
That was my request.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if you remember the video on Sports and Touring with the K12,
Yeah. K12
Yeah.
Micra,
The Mad Micra,
the
yeah.
Mad Micra, the Micra R. At first I thought that was like pirate speak, but it turned out it was just like, because it's got a 350Z engine in it back, and it actually started out with a British touring car engine in it. Anyway, so I got talking to Nick, and I was like, who's the press guy there, after that video, and he was like, oh, well, we've got loads of other stuff in the Heritage fleet. And I was like, James? Because obviously Sports and Touring is a relatively small channel. It's hard for me to justify actually having a car, any of their cars shipped to me. He was actually willing to work with us because he's seen the long-standing content, the fact that the Nissan stuff gets good views, but I just felt it was better value overall. And James was also keen, so I got to pick one of the cars that he's getting two cars actually.
Yeah. So and also I've never driven a standard 240. I drove a very heavily modified one a few years back.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be really good for you to get to drive a bog standard, but presumably well cared for example.
Oh yeah, it's been fully restored.
It looks. Is it yellow as well? I think it might be.
I don't remember. This is like my dream classic car.
Yeah, this could be a very expensive video for Andy.
Anyway.
Well, I think I'll answer my part of the
Yeah.
question I asked you. And I think you're going to be looking at stuff like the GT86 / BLZ, maybe the new Supra, and definitely the GI Yaris. Those are cars that come to mind where I think where people, that they're made in a reasonably new enough time that people who are younger maybe start to drive and they get a bit more money or will be able to buy them. Because the GI Yaris obviously still in production. And, and it's a smaller car, so it's going to be something that, people are going to be more able to like justify having on the drive, and in a modern day and age where cars are so big, and also where in a lot of places parking has not evolved and there's more cars going on the road. So I definitely think things like the GI Yaris will be up there.
I think that's a really good shout actually, because the older first gen ones are kind of like mid-20s, mid-20s. Give it a few more years, and
It's already a lot of car for that money.
Yeah. I think give it a few more years, and maybe some of them, the higher miler ones, will come down into the teens, and they'll start to seem more accessible. And it's a Toyota, so it's not like, although they've done a lot to actually, improve the performance, they've also done a lot to improve the reliability of the engines.
Yes.
So they shouldn't be insanely expensive to run either.
And if you look after it, it'll be fine. But I probably sound like a paid Renault spokesperson at this point. But one of the other things I wanted to mention earlier is that one of the real things that I think is stopping a lot of young people getting into the car scene is environmental concern. And there are a lot of people out there who, rightly or wrongly, and it is not the point of this particular podcast to debate it, just don't want to drive or own a combustion engined vehicle. And I think I see too many people out there just then treating these people like they're utter and total morons. And I think it's really cool to see that, okay, all right, you've made your choice. In the same way that we know a whole bunch of people who go, I don't want diesel. No, I don't really want a diesel. Or I don't want a hybrid. I don't want a hybrid. I don't want an EV. And they've all got their own reasons for it. And whether it's right or wrong, do you know what? Kind of almost doesn't matter. But there is a bunch of people out there who are like, I would like to own something, but I do really only want it to be an EV. And you're like, okay, let's give them cool EVs. Like, you know, and that's what I think is really exciting about this period of time we're in. I think manufacturers are slowly beginning to grasp, create that thing that gets us old farts excited and the new generation. And I think we'll see a real explosion in the car again.
Well, this is it with the EV. Talk about the environmental side of things. A lot more energy now is going to renewable and sustainable types. And a lot of the battery technologies in the EVs aren't having all the nasty bits and they're changing it. I think it was LFP and NM or something like that.
There's all sorts of
there's
stuff
loads
going
of... So basically, a lot of them are becoming a lot more environmentally friendly and don't have the nasty things mined out for them. So for people who are thinking about a car but are thinking like that, it's kind of swaying more.
And also, I think it will be very exciting because we will see, I think maybe even more interesting than the conversions you're talking about, you know, from combustion to EV. It's the potential that in maybe 10 years' time, you'll be able to go, hey, remember the Honda E? Know how the battery just wasn't really good enough? You're like, well, now we got a battery pack that's got much improved energy density, is cheaper, can, you know, provide the motor more power, because motors are great. Motors make so much power and they're relatively compact. The problem is the battery supplying them.
Very reliable as well.
Extremely reliable. So you're like, in 10, 15 years, I can see a company coming up being like, hey, we're going to do the Honda E Mark II. You just give us your Honda E and 10, 15 grand, and it'll come back as the car it should have been from the factory.
The Honda Evo. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, on that bombshell, we should probably wrap up, but I just want to say I can relate to this concern for the environment. This is why I have a combustion car and not a horse.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that horses have a huge carbon footprint, even when you're not even riding them. Whereas my car just sits there doing nothing, having zero carbon footprint.
And as somebody pointed out to me the other day, like when Dobbin draws his last breath, which at some point he will, he's not really worth that much money.
No.
Whereas even our cars as crusty MOT failures are worth something to someone.
Yep.
You know, you could always do something with it.
And I learned the other day that the amount of tons of horse manure that was having to be cleared from London streets before the motor car was an insane amount. It was like in the hundreds of tons on a sort of daily or weekly basis. I can't remember now. So that's why I don't have a horse. And
Although oddly, I can see you on a horse.
oh yes, and now I have diamonds and the tickets to the concert you want to go to.
I feel like there's a reference I'm missing here, or some kind of strange fantasy between you two,
It's
but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's an old reference and a spicy one. I'll leave you with that.
Yeah. Radiator Arms, the podcast you wish your podcast could be.
Anyway, if anyone is actually still here, let us know in the comments what I mean by it's an old and spicy reference.
Yeah. And don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And we are here first on YouTube, 7 o'clock on a Monday morning, then followed precisely a week later via the magic of the interwebs on Acast, which provides us Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, and probably, honestly, BitTorrent as well. So, yeah. However you've watched or listened to us, we thank you, and we'll see you for the next one on the Radiator Arms.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Was that an Old Spice advert?
Yes.
Yes.
Ah, that's what it was.
Have you not seen that?
Yes, I have, but I've only just realised.